Hey folks, this is Sue Bell from Market Domination Solutions. We're here today to talk about why Google might be hating your website. Excellent. So you guys can see me and you can hear me. That's spectacular. So good. With that out of the way, full disclosure, I've not really been feeling too terribly well this week, and so I was going to try to cover both analytics and Search Console today, but I think I just want to focus on Search Console, and then we'll come back next week and do analytics. So if you're here specifically for analytics, that's not going to happen today, but I have some really important stuff to cover with Search Console, and this is where you're really going to see why Google isn't liking your website and what you can do about it. So if you guys are willing to hang in there with me, we will jump in and get started. So this is going to be more of an over-the-shoulder, interactive type stuff. I've got some slides, but that's just to kind of keep me on track. So, so without further ado, what we're going to talk about today are sitemaps, adding and removing them from Search Console. We're going to talk about coverage, and that's where it gets really interesting because there's two aspects to coverage. There's what Google has discovered, and then what Google has evaluated out of what you submitted in your sitemaps, the errors, the warnings, and the exclusions. So we'll talk about how those things differ. We're going to look at performance, how Google is looking at the performance of your website, and these are also clues to where you can see what's going on. Inspection and indexing, mobile usability, and finally security and manual actions. All right, so first, sitemaps. What happens when you submit a sitemap to Google is it reads it pretty quickly, and it'll come back fairly fast and tell you whether or not it could parse the sitemap. So at that point, all it's done is it's read it. It hasn't actually processed it, which means you're not going to get to see the coverage. It takes, typically speaking, it takes about a week for the coverage, but it can take a little bit longer than that. So let's jump over there and just take a look at what this looks like. So this is the overview. I'm going to come right in here to sitemaps and show you that first of all. So this is where you can submit a sitemap, and this is where you'll see what the status is and how many it's discovered. And if you need to delete an old sitemap, you can just click on it. You can come in here. Up here hidden is the Remove Sitemap button, which it took me a long time to find that. So so once it's actually processed the sitemap, you'll see this little thing come up over here. See the index coverage. And then when you click on that, it just takes you up here to coverage. But the important part here is that you're seeing what it's covered from that one particular sitemap. So this site has got several different sitemaps, as you can see. Each one might have different issues going on. So all right, that's submitting the sitemap, and that's the coverage. So from there, we're going to go on to this page that we were just on. We're going to talk about the errors, valid with warnings, valids, and exclusions. So when you're looking at the errors, this is giving you a timeline of when Google was seeing what errors. And the important part is down here, the different errors that you can see for what's going on. All right. Anything that's an error is important to fix. Anything that's valid with warnings is not as important. The other thing that you're going to want to look at are the things that are excluded, which in this case you can see completely dwarf where we've got errors. Now, some exclusions are perfectly valid. For example, duplicate submitted URL not selected as a canonical. What this means is on this website, we have a canonical tag on every single page, and so everything's submitted on the sitemap, but when it goes out and reads it, it says, oh, this is not the primary page. This is, it's not intended to be the canonical page. This is intended to be a backup page. And so it'll just say duplicate submitted, and we didn't select it as a canonical. Google always reserves the right to decide whether or not something is going to be a canonical. You can tell it what you want it to, which file you want or which page you want to have it be canonical, but in the end, Google makes up its own mind, right? Crawled, not currently indexed. There's not too much you can do about that. Typically speaking, Google means that it didn't find it worth including in the index. There's not actually an error. Typically speaking, it doesn't have enough inbound links, or it's not got enough content, although typically not enough content is going to be a soft 404. But Google just found the page wanting for one reason or another. So it crawled it, it looked at it, and it said, you're not valuable enough to include. And then discovered, not currently indexed, means it hasn't decided whether or not it wants to include it in the index. So there's a bunch, this is a small fraction of what can be in the excluded section. If you guys have sites that you're worried about and you want to toss in to the chat box either the errors that you've got or the excluded comments that you've got, we'll talk about those. I think I have another site over here. No, they're both the same site. Anyway, all right. I can pull up another site. I do have another site that we're going to look at. So let me go back for a moment to the errors, because that's a whole other kettle of fish. Submitted URL blocked by robots.txt. This is something that I see really frequently. I use all-in-one SEO, and it's got a box underneath the content for options. You can decide to set the no index filter. And I wish that all-in-one SEO, when you set the no index filter, it would take it automatically out of the sitemap that it builds. It does not. I don't think most of the SEO plugins have that connection in the middle. And so this is actually, you know, when 1 or 2 pages is not going to be a big deal, but as you start to get more pages, like this has got 514, that's kind of a big deal. If you're telling Google in one place, hey, go index these files, and then when it gets to the page and you say, oh no, I don't really want this page indexed, Google's like, what? Can't you get your act together? So past a point, Google's going to start to ding you for that kind of stuff. Submitted URL seems to be a soft 404. There's a couple of reasons why something can be a soft 404. The most common reason I see is that it's not really got any content on the page. The most common thing that causes that is you've got some kind of a plugin that's making a special kind of a page out of maybe an image or something like that. It's, you know how you can have posts, special kinds of posts, and some plugins will make special kinds of posts. And then you can go into your SEO plugin and you can tell it what kinds of things you want it to index. Let me see if I can bring my blog up here for a second so I can be a little bit more specific, a little bit less vague. All-in-one SEO. So let's look at sitemap settings for a second. Hopefully it's here. All right, post types that I want to include. So I never click all post types, because then if you've got funky post types, it's going to include that. I just wanted to include posts and templates. Now it's going to list other special post types that it finds here. And these are the kinds of things that tend to get classified as, yeah, right, to get classified as soft 404s. All right, submitted URL has a crawl issue. So if this is vague, like what the heck are you talking about here? So you can click on this and it'll take you down into the individual, it'll show you very specifically what's going on. And that also helps you, like if you're trying to figure out what the soft 404 is, you can come down here, you can take a look, you can have it open one of the pages, and you can see why the heck it's a soft 404. And so then you can go fix that problem. As you can see, this page has actually got no content on it whatsoever. All All right, so submitted URL has a crawl issue. It's possible that each one of these is going to be a different issue, but typically speaking, if you're running a blog, they're probably all going to be the same. It's probably all something that's wrong with it. I don't actually see anything wrong with this post, but maybe if I look at 2 or 3 of them, I'll start to see a pattern. Submitted URL marked as no index, that's what we just said. And then a server 500 error. What this means is your server's not responding quickly enough for Google, right? And Google's got a decent timeout. So in this particular case, it's a huge site. Google's probably trying to crawl some pages that aren't cached because we don't cache everything because that's expensive. In your case, if you're starting to see 500 errors, you should take a look, run some speed tests on your pages and see how long they're taking. If you go and look in, this will even tell you which pages are taking too long. So you can go run these pages through some speed tests. Most of the time what I find is they've got some kind of a slider with really huge images and they're taking a really long time to load. All right, anybody else got any errors or anything that they want to toss? You can add them later. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be right now. But if you have other errors or excluded issues and you'd like for me to talk about them, I'm happy to do that. All right, let's, is there anything else I wanted to talk about? No, I don't think so. Do I have a site that's got valid with warnings? Probably not. All right, so, oh, that's so weird. Performance. That is so weird. Anyway, performance is the same kind of thing. Let's come up here to performance. Oh, one thing I didn't talk about in the coverage. Let's do that now. So this is for all known pages. I hit that, right? All known pages or all submitted pages. So Google, if you have a good sized site, those things are going to be different. All submitted pages and all known pages. So all known pages are pages that Google crawls, and Google can just go and find stuff that you maybe don't want it to find. So the reason that I come in here and I look at this, because you can see there's all kinds of other stuff going on here. The reason I come in and look at this is because oftentimes I'll see pages that I really don't want Google to crawl. I don't want them in the index. And so this tells me what I need to go add to the robots.txt file. Seth has got a good question. Did you cover if we still need to add multiple properties, or is there a new way where we just submit the main HTTPS version only good enough nowadays? So you need to add, if you have your site on www and you don't have anything on the root without a subdomain, I would still add both of those. If you don't need to add an HTTP and an HTTPS, just add, if you have a secure certificate on your site, just add that. Make sure that your HTTP is forwarding to your HTTPS and forget about it, and all of your stuff is going to show up there. If you've got multiple subdomains, if you've got other things besides www, then obviously you need to add each one of those subdomains. All right. Yes, Google Docs is messing with me. I added these images, and then right before I looked at the slide deck and the images were gone, so I put them in again, and now it's deciding to show both of them. All right, Search Console. So this is the bar at the top. There's also the URL inspection over here where it just brings it up full screen. The interesting thing here, it used to be externally you could have Google look at a file, and then if it was happy with the page, it would say, do you want to add it to the index? It's no longer available externally. It's only available now inside a Google Search Console, which means you can't add a page to the index unless you've actually owned up to owning the file, right? It used to be really handy for those sites that I didn't want to admit that I owned. So now I have to admit that I own the file to add the page to the index. It's a if I come in here to coverage and I'm not seeing that page in any of these spots, if it doesn't seem to be in the index, you can throw it in here and it will, let me find a page, hang on. It'll go and test it. For example, no, index blocked. Let me get rid of these others so that I'm not seeing those. I just want the excluded pages. Crawled, not currently indexed. Let me grab one of these. Right? So I can come up here and I can put that one in. And now I can say request indexing. And that's how, that is the quickest way to get a page indexed these days. So if you're adding a new page to site, or if you've got a brand new site up and you want to get it in the index as quickly as possible, put the pages in there and they'll usually come up in the index within about 24, maybe 48 hours. It's pretty quick. All right, I don't want to cancel it and I don't want to wait, so let's go back. Mobile usability. All right. Again, you've got the ability to be able to look at each one of these, the errors and the valids. This is becoming more relevant. I still prefer the external mobile testing tool. I still find this to be more accurate. So if I've got a problem with a page, and I can't see a reason why it's not indexing, I'll go test it here. And they're really cracking down. I've got entire sites these days that aren't indexing well because they're not mobile friendly. And in here, the stupid thing, oh, I'm sorry, did I just badmouth Google? In here, the stupid thing is saying, I got problems with 1 or 2 pages, and I got a 500-page site. None of my pages are indexing, but they're all variations on a theme, right? Because that's the way a blog is. All the pages are more or less the same. Google's only telling me it's got problems reading 2 pages, but I know if it's got problem reading those 2 pages, it's got problems reading the entire site. So I don't trust this. On blogs where I've got radically different pages and things like that, if this page isn't indexing, go take a look at it there. Yes, exactly, Jess. That is exactly what I found out today. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about are manual actions. There's nothing really to see. So back 2015, 2016, early 2017, I saw manual actions everywhere. Like I would say 1 in maybe even 2 in 10 sites that were brought to me for review, I would find a manual action to be the problem. Google in the last couple of years has managed to figure out how to include all of their to determine algorithmically the kinds of pages that they had previously been doing manual actions for. So they're no longer really doing manual actions. They still have people manually reviewing sites, but those things, a lot of the things that had caused manual actions are just being done by the algorithm these days. So you don't actually see a lot of stuff in manual actions. You still get the penalties, you still get suppression penalties, and that's still difficult to figure out why you have a suppression penalty. And these in this case, I think it's more difficult because Google's not really telling you what the problem is. So the suppression penalties are things like over-optimization, or spammy links, or that kind of thing. Mostly, I would say what I see is over-optimization, either on-site over-optimization, on-page over-optimization, or inbound link over-optimization. And those three things, I've talked about this a little bit somewhere in the last 6 months, those three things come together. They're calculated together as a whole. So Google, a ways back, a couple years back, it used to look at your site page by page, and it still does look at your site page by page, but it also looks at your site-wide for optimization and over-optimization. And it's changed the definition of what over-optimization is. In other words, it used to be you kept the percentage of a single word keyword phrase under 3% or whatever the heck it was. And now these days I've seen percentages all over the map. Like I've seen some people ranked in the #1 position that have got percentages so high that it just boggles my mind. I have no idea. So these days, the way that you calculate, the best way that I have found to calculate what quote over optimization is, unquote, is to use tools that can analyze a page and a site, and you analyze the top competitors and you use them as a gauge for what your optimization ought to be. Exactly, niche dependent. All right, so that's manual actions. If you were to have a manual action, good. If you were to have a manual action, it's tucked away here. And if you were to have a security issue, like if your blog gets hacked and you don't get it fixed fast enough, then Google figures out it got hacked, and they're pretty quick about it these days. And then there's that little thing that pops up in the SERPs that says, you know, this site's probably got issues, you don't really want to click here. At about the same time as it pops up in the SERPs, just a little bit before it pops up in the SERPs, it'll pop up here. And if you have it set so that Google emails you, they'll email you and tell you that there's a problem. Now, if you've just recently added a property or just recently added your very first Google Search Console, you perhaps don't have those email settings set. That is not available in the new version. It's pretty much the only thing that's left over in the old version these days. So you go to the old version, you can see your messages right up here, and you can come up here to, I think it's preferences, I'm pretty sure it's preferences, and you can click this box, enable email notifications, and then it will send an email notification to everybody who's an admin on that site. All right, so that is that, and security issues and how to configure your email settings. And last but not least is a data studio. Whoops, hang on a second, let me just readjust my screens a little bit. All right, a data studio setting. I think it's this one that I want to share with you guys. So this, I found, it's way cool, and I want to talk about this in depth next week with analytics, because analytics is where Google, Data Studio really shines. So what I shot you was the template. You can assign, to use this template and then assign whatever site you want to with it. I'm just looking at the same site here that I had before. I think that there's a couple of issues with the template, but I'll show you how to fix them. And then once you're done and you're using it, you can use it in the other view, just the regular view, or you can come in here and click edit. So the cool thing that I think is that this is much easier to understand, because screen, all the important information is on one screen. And if there's something else that you want, you can configure this so that it is all on one screen. And then I can just look at this. I can see what's going on. And I don't have to go digging through Search Console, because digging is literally what I have to do. When I'm trying to help somebody figure out what's going on with their site, I go through every single one of these trying to figure out, who's on first and what's going on. So you can create a template, and then in edit mode you can assign, well, from the template you can assign whatever site you want to, so you can see everything at a glance. All right, so and I think I can share the report. I kind of think I can, yeah, I can download this report as a PDF, so it's a great thing to give back to your clients. All right, so here in edit mode, you can click on pretty much anything, and it brings up over here the stuff that you can adjust. So the couple of things that come up as no data, you just want to come in here and you want to choose the other metric. So it'll have one metric blanked out, and you can just click that metric and it'll immediately populate that block. It's very cool. And so from that, like, there's not too much you can do with this one, but some of them I could add. Come on, don't make a liar out of me. Maybe I just have to say add a metric. Hang on. Oh yeah, there we go. Add a metric. And so then if you want to add another metric to the table, there's not too many that you can add to most of these tables, but you could add an extra field. You can add a whole extra block. You can really go to town with it. It's pretty cool. Did I say it was cool enough times? So, excellent. All right. I have not had a chance to dig into this too often. You guys can play with it, and when we come back next week, I'm going to do the same kind of thing with analytics. They have. Let me shoot you this. Where is it? Hang on. Where was I? Here we are. Templates. Let me come back here. Let me find the entire template page and shoot that to you. Maybe. Here we go. So from here, you can click here and you can see all the templates that they've got. I'll just drop that link to you too. So, so this was the Search Console one. There's a YouTube one. And then there was this one was the one that I was taking and playing, or maybe it was this one. Anyway, I'm playing with these two. I want to make one that's a little bit betterer, and we'll go through analytics next week, and we'll talk about all the different parts of analytics, and then I'll give you a dashboard full of the stuff that I look at. But because there's different kinds of sites, you might want to have something that takes into account different data from what it is that I particularly look at. But anyway, that's it for today. It's a good sized group of people. Hey, give me a 1 if you guys would rather have these on the weekend, and because it's a bigger group than what we usually have. So give me a 1 if you guys would rather have these things on the weekend, and a 2 if you're happy with having them on Thursday. Okay. So far, it's all 2s. All right. Very good. Then we will go back to Thursday. Excellent. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I appreciate your showing up here. Appreciate your time today. Thanks so much. And thanks to my team. They make all this happen. We'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great day. Ciao.